Hello there, wonderful people. We're thrilled that you've chosen to join us today on New Horizon Updates. This video is your gateway to a deeper understanding of this subject matter. Engage with the content and enrich your knowledge. Preparing for a full-scale attack on Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces have initiated substantial assaults targeting Hamas strongholds in the Gaza Strip. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has visited the border region, witnessing Israeli soldiers geared up for the ensuing phase of the conflict. The Israeli military spokesperson has stated that reserve soldiers are in position around Gaza, ready for the coming stage of this conflict, with the primary objective being to dislodge Hamas. The clashes so far have resulted in the loss of over 1,300 Israeli lives, and more than 3,400 have sustained injuries. On the Palestinian side, over 2,215 lives have been lost, and injuries exceed 8,700. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been relocated to the southern part of Gaza, following Israel's request for evacuation. Despite the human loss and displacement, Hamas remains resolute in its stance to fight till the end and urges civilians not to vacate. The atmosphere in Gaza continues to be tense and volatile. Both Israel and the Hamas militant group are persistently engaged in hostilities. Israel's military declared on October 14th that they are actively preparing for an amplified assault on Gaza, with an inclusive strategy involving air, naval, and ground forces. Apparently, Israel has gathered substantial military assets along the Gaza border, including combat gear and logistical support. Their stated intention is to obliterate the military capabilities of Hamas and other armed groups operating in Gaza. The exact timing of this grand-scale offensive remains undisclosed. In the past week, Israel has carried out thousands of airstrikes and invasions into Gaza. This was in response to a significant Hamas invasion into Israeli territory, which pushed Israel to declare a state of war. The Israeli military mobilized over 100,000 troops, supplemented with hundreds of tanks and self-propelled howitzers, initiating a total siege that disrupted power, water, and supply lines to the region. A day before, on October 13th, Israel instructed that over 1 million residents in northern Gaza should move to the southern region of the territory, with the aim to avert potential casualties from the anticipated military operations. Images on social media provide a glimpse into the gravity of the situation, showing Israeli Defense Forces advising civilians to evacuate their homes and move southward. A safety advisory leaflet has been issued, stating that for your safety, you should not return home until there is a new announcement. The leaflet strictly prohibits approaching the border areas. Instead, you're urged to leave your homes immediately and move southward. A map on the leaflet depicts arrows pointing towards the southern direction, with a designated area in the upper left corner labeled Humanitarian Aid Zone. Following the evacuation announcement, confirmation has been received about active operations in the area. Raids were carried out with infantry and armored units, searching for hostages and collecting evidence. The operations also led to the curbing of armed groups and infrastructure in the area. On October 14th, border clashes continued, with reports of mortar rounds and anti-tank missiles being fired at military positions. A series of raids and drone strikes were carried out in response, targeting specific positions. Airstrikes were also confirmed in retaliation for a missile attack. Amidst the escalating, regional nations have stepped up their efforts to seek a ceasefire and prevent a humanitarian crisis. For the past week, the epicenter of conflict in the Middle East has shifted back to Gaza, with the Israeli Defense Minister implementing a comprehensive blockade of the area. This action was a response to a sudden attack by the Hamas militant group on October 7th, leading to a rising number of casualties. The situation in Gaza is escalating due to the total cutoff of food, electricity, and water supply. The troubled history of Gaza is one of the reasons why it's deemed one of the most conflicted regions globally. Gaza, a narrow strip of land located along the southeastern Mediterranean coast, shares its borders with Israel and Egypt. It was a part of the Ottoman Empire in the early 1500s, and post-World War I, it came under British control. During 1948, more than 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from Gaza, following the establishment of the State of Israel, igniting conflicts with Arab forces. The increase in Jewish immigrants into the Palestine region, amid the rise of European Jewish nationalism and post-Holocaust, led to significant Jewish immigration. In 1947, when tensions between Palestinian locals and Jewish nationalists were escalating, the United Nations proposed to partition Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state, with Jerusalem as an international city. While Jewish groups supported this plan, the Arabs were against it. The conflict escalated, and the UN's proposal was never implemented. Following the end of the British Mandate and their withdrawal from the region in May 1948, Jewish nationalist leaders proclaimed Israel as a state. A coalition of Arab nations, comprising Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, initiated the First Arab-Israeli War. Jordan annexed East Jerusalem, along with the Old City, and Egypt took control of Gaza and some parts of the West Bank. Many Palestinian refugees migrated to areas under Egyptian and Jordanian control. During the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel launched an attack, capturing the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the Sinai Peninsula. Although Sinai was later returned to Egypt as part of a peace agreement in 1979, Gaza remained contentious. Many Palestinian refugees sought refuge in areas controlled by Egypt and Jordan. This backdrop shapes the continuous conflicts in Gaza, shedding light on the intricate and deeply ingrained problems that fuel the ongoing tensions in the region. Since 1967, Israel has continued to control the remaining territories, with East Jerusalem officially annexed in 1980. However, the formal declaration regarding the West Bank and Gaza has been delayed. Israel increased the construction of settlements in both regions during this time, with the belief that their final status would be set in future negotiations. In 2005, Israel succumbed to domestic and international pressure and withdrew approximately 9,000 settlers and military forces from Gaza. The following year, Hamas participated in the elections in Gaza, overthrowing the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority, and took over the entire Gaza Strip. Since then, no elections have been held in Gaza. This resulted in the imposition of a blockade on air, land, and sea access to Gaza by Israel, while Egypt closed its border after Hamas took power in 2007. Gaza is densely populated and has one of the world's highest unemployment rates. The primary dependence of its population is on Israel for electricity and food supplies, making their situation increasingly difficult amidst the ongoing conflict. Nearly half of Gaza's population, approximately 1 million children, are at risk. Additionally, about 40% of the population is 15 years old. The United Nations estimates that nearly 80% of the population depends on international aid for survival and access to basic services. Previous conflicts, due to Gaza's dense population, have resulted in substantial civilian casualties, including hundreds of children. The continuous conflict between Israel and Palestine has led to over 2,500 fatalities and more than 6,000 injuries so far. The retaliatory actions from both sides continue to exacerbate the situation for the region's inhabitants, especially the civilians. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has described the conditions for children in Gaza as hell on earth, emphasizing the severe repercussions of this ongoing conflict. This concludes our international news summary for today. We appreciate your attention and stay tuned for more updates. Goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you in the next news briefing. We greatly value your support as it fuels our ability to continue delivering enlightening content. Should you find this video insightful and are keen on more such discussions, we invite you to like, subscribe, and activate notifications. This not only supports our efforts, but also ensures you remain informed about Israel's defense capabilities and a multitude of other captivating military topics. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to comment below. It's your input that sparks enriching conversations. Stay tuned for thought-provoking content on our channel.